Hello everyone, how are you doing? Welcome along to the channel. I'm here at Twickenham, lovely day in southwest London for the Premiership season launch. The new Premiership season right around the corner gets underway on Friday the 9th of September. It's just a couple of months ago that we were all here for the final, that Freddie Burns drop goal, and now we're getting geared up for another season. I'm sat actually where you can probably see the blue seats behind me. This is where the coaches sit. So International Game Day, Eddie Jones and all his coaches are kind of sat up here when you see him on TV trying to relay instructions down to the touchline. So it's been a really interesting day so far. We've had lots of players, lots of coaches from the various different teams. Been here, lots of different media duties and things like that, but it means it is now time to preview another Premiership season. And what will this Premiership season be like? Well, first of all, I suppose we have to get the kind of newsy angle out of the way to start with. The thing hanging over all of this, and whilst as fans and even as media people really excited about the new season, we have the situation with Worcester, where Worcester, and it's been widely reported in more detail than I'll probably go into here, in terms of the situation with staff and players not being paid, a winding up order by HMRC, could they go into administration and things like that. Now, first of all, it's important to say Worcester are here. There is Steve Diamond here, Ted Hill has been here, they've been doing their various media duties and have been speaking, and as things stand today, this is on a Thursday, the players will be getting paid today. I understand there was some issues with bank accounts that were frozen, having to be unfrozen, but they should be getting paid and hopefully finding a way to move forward. Steve Diamond was, as he typically is, quite bullish that they would be all right moving forward. Then haven't played any pre-season games, so I'd imagine they'll start the season quite slowly because of that, but he was confident that moving forward they're going to be okay. He's in dialogue with the owners. He's seen the community of Worcester really get behind that team in terms of trying to support the club and find funding and things like that. So look, we'll see what happens. It's probably a situation that's going to develop a lot, but fingers crossed that everything that's happening with Worcester is fine and they're going to be part of the season. We shall wait and see. I suppose a wider point on this, and what does it mean for the Premiership? What does it mean for professional rugby in England? Because I think on the one hand, last year we had record TV audiences. There is a deal now with ITV. There's more Premiership rugby on domestic TV, which will hopefully grow the game outside of the international windows, which draw a way bigger audience than the rest of the time. So that's really great. Commercially, I still think that the sport is quite an attractive proposition. But then on the business side, we have clubs, particularly Worcester, Wasps have had their own issues, struggling at the moment. So what does all this mean? I think that is a question for the game moving forward. I think professional rugby is going to have to change. We've seen the salary cap come down, which, whilst it's really tough on the players, hopefully will make things more affordable. But I think where professional rugby is and the developments in the game, that's going to be something that is going to continue to have to develop for the game to grow and for the game to be sustainable as well, because we don't need a team like Worcester going out of business. So those are kind of the newsy bits, I would say, at the start of the season. Ones we'll have to keep an eye on, but we'll wait and see exactly what happens. In terms of the new season, let's get into the rugby, because that's what we're almost into. As I said, it starts on Friday the 9th of September. I'm really looking forward to the opener, Bristol hosting Bath at Ashton Gate. I saw earlier this week, I think they've sold 20,000 tickets already. Traditionally, that's been a sellout, so hopefully they're able to get up to the 27,000 mark, which is about what Ashton Gate hosts. Really looking forward to that. I'm a Bristol Bears fan, impartial obviously when I'm working and in the media and things like that, but they had a tough year last year, so we'll see how they get on. In terms of how the season this year, I think we look back to this time last year, and if you said before the start of the season, if you asked most people who's going to be in the top four, the vast majority of people would have had Exeter Chiefs, Bristol Bears and Sale Sharks. Three sides that were in the top four the season before. Almost everyone I think would have had those teams in there, and all of them missed out, which should be a warning to us that this Premiership season could be completely unpredictable, as it often is. Personally, who do I think is going to be in the top four? I think defending champions Leicester under Steve Borthwick are going to continue to be incredibly difficult to beat. They topped the table last year. They won the final in dramatic fashion with that Freddie Burns drop goal that I mentioned earlier. So I think Leicester will still be in that top four. I think Saracens, the team they beat in the final, will still be in the top four as well. They lost in the final last year, which isn't something that they're particularly used to. Jamie George, in some of his media duties earlier today, said the last time that they lost a final was 2014, and after that Saracens then went on that period where they dominated English rugby domestically, they dominated on the European scene. So I think it's a club that has the infrastructure and enough people still there, like Mark McCall, their director of rugby, who will be in a position to kick on and make the best of losing in the Premiership final. They lost in the semi-final of the Challenge Cup in Europe as well. So I'm predicting Saracens to kick on, be stronger, better than ever. They'll be in the top 4 as well. Outside of that, who am I going for? This is where I think it gets a lot trickier to predict. I think there's a good 6 sides that could get those final 2-4 spots. I'm going to go for Gloucester. They missed out last year, but they had an absolute weapon of a driving maul, which, speak to any team in the Premiership, said how difficult that was to stop. On the back of that, I think they'll build on that with the rest of their game plan, and I think they're going to be a real force. I think they'll climb the table. I really like what George Skivington's doing there. I think he's had a brilliant impact as the head coach at Gloucester, one of the traditional clubs of English rugby. Been a long time, starved of success really, certainly domestically, but I'll predict Gloucester to be in the top 4. And then the final place, and this is a difficult one, I'm going to say Exeter Chiefs. I'm going to say Exeter because, similar to Saracens, they still have a culture of winning. They have a lot of people at that club that know how to win. I really like Rob Baxter as the director of rugby. I think he speaks brilliantly about the game, so honest whenever you speak to him in post-match interviews. I think Exeter will get back up there. I also think the tactical tweaks last year, what they did with the pre-latch and making it difficult for Exeter to really execute their game in the red zone, I think had an impact. I know the club kind of played that down a little bit, but I think it did have an impact. So I'm going to say Exeter are also in the top 4. So it's Leicester, Saracens, Gloucester and Exeter are going to be in my top 4 for the Premiership season. Of course, you've got Sale, you've got Bristol, you've got London Irish, teams like that are going to be wanting to improve. I think Sale's interesting. George Ford, admittedly, is going to be out for the first couple of months of the season, I think, because of the injury he picked up in the Premiership final, but he'll be really key in running their attack. I'd imagine he's going to be pretty happy with coming back home, moving away from Leicester. They brought in Johnny Hill, they brought Tom O'Flaherty, 2 guys from Exeter Chiefs. So in terms of recruitment, I think Sale are arguably one of the more exciting sides with the players that they have brought in. So I think they'll be a force. Can they get it clicking and get it all together, really, is probably the question mark, because Alex Sanderson has been there a bit of time now, and they're still maybe struggling to truly find their form on a consistent basis. So that's going to be key. Bristol, I mentioned earlier, I'm a Bristol fan. I just struggle to see it. I struggle to see that they're going to be able to get into the top 4. I think they'll be better than last season, which is a relatively low bar. They had a really, really bad season. I'll do some other videos on the channel, perhaps speaking about Bristol in more detail. And then I think it's worth mentioning London Irish. Can't go through every team, but London Irish, whole host of draws last year. If they turn those draws into wins, they'll be all right. They've got a great ground, well worth paying a visit if you can. I like the style of rugby they play. I like some of those young guns that they've got out wide on the wing and at full-back, which can unlock defensive. So London Irish wouldn't surprise me if they did get in the top 4, but I think they might just struggle. I'm not sure they quite have the depth at the moment, but look, we'll wait and see. I'll look back on this video at the end of the season. We'll see how horribly wrong I was with that. Obviously, for a team like Worcester, with everything they're going through, I think it's going to be too difficult. Wasps are the same. They have had financial issues. They're okay, but they had a freeze on recruitment, which meant, I think, since basically December until the last few weeks, recording this at the start of September, they weren't able to recruit anyone. That, I think, is going to have an impact. So we'll see how everything falls, how the cards land. But those are my predictions for the Premiership season. It's going to be another good one. I'll try and do regular videos on the channel. If you can subscribe, it'd be a massive help. Like the video and put a comment down below as well what you might like to see. I've got my own ideas on what might work well for a kind of channel like this. I'll do pieces like this where it's just kind of my opinions talking to camera, but also on top of that some more tactical stuff. I think there's some interesting different things that we can do with it. But for now, from me at Twickenham, in front of a lovely pitch, by the way, new laid pitch at Twickenham. See you next time.